Welcome to part 2 of our Common Misconceptions podcast. I hope you'll find the common misconceptions that we discussed today just as, if not more, interesting than the ones we discussed last time. Let's talk wildlife. I'll start with my next common misconception.
Okay, so what's your next one?
I'm going to do 2 if that's okay, because the first one's really short. It literally just goes, this isn't true, this is the case. So I'll do 2.
Okay, so this is Flo's short.
This is my short
true.
one.
This is the case.
This is true, this is the case. This is what people think. Only birds of prey produce pellets. This is the truth. Many birds produce pellets, and birds which have been seen doing this include starlings, wagtails, warblers, blackbirds, swallows, house martins, robins, and many, many other species of birds. Even a wood pigeon once has been seen producing a pellet an inch long full of various foodstuffs.
The last podcast we did, when you were talking, one of our jackdaws, Bram, he produced a pellet mid-podcast, and then he was trying to peck it to eat it. Obviously, he's the blind bird, so he couldn't find it. And it was really hard not to laugh, because it was quite funny to watch. But very on topic, yeah, even jackdaws.
Yes, jackdaws produce pellets. One time Brooke produced a pellet and threw it in my cup of tea. So I definitely know from experience that jackdaws produce pellets.
What's your second one?
Bats are blind and love human hair, apparently.
Ooh.
Bats are not blind. Bats all over the world use their eyesight to hunt. Some do not echolocate at all, in fact, and some bats which source their food from plants can see an ultraviolet light. Did you know that?
That's incredible. And I'm not surprised, because lots of species can see ultraviolet light.
I think it's to do with the flowers, because you know how species use ultraviolet light when looking at flowers to suck the nectar. In a 2003 study published in the journal Animal Behaviour, brown long-eared bats, a type we get over here in the UK, were found to more readily use their eyesight than echolocation when hunting.
Oh, that's so cool. It's really weird, because as humans, we all think we know a lot about animals, but the things that we are taught or learn, in fact, a lot of these myths that we're talking about, these misconceptions, is what people think is the basis of wildlife knowledge is so untrue. There's so much about wildlife that we don't know yet, and I love hearing things like this. It's amazing.
Think of how much energy eyes take and how easily they're injured and things like that. They wouldn't benefit from having eyes.
That's a really good point. That's a really, really good point.
But just to completely turn everything around, 180, a few years ago in Brazil, it was found that there were actually a few bats caught in perfect health who were either blind or had severe eye problems which limited their sight. So it was found that bats actually can be blind and survive fine, which means that maybe some bats will actually evolve to be blind because they don't need it.
But what's with the human hair fetish?
Well, I hadn't actually heard of bats loving human hair until you told me.
I grew up being told by family members that be careful of bats because they like to go into human hair. They get tangled in human hair.
I've never heard of that.
If you have long hair, long curly hair especially, you shouldn't go out where there's bats because they will get stuck in your hair.
It possibly originates from bats flying low over people's heads and flying close to people with torches because the torches attract insects to the light. And bats fly by swooping when they hunt insects. And so if someone sees a bat swoop down to near their head height, they may assume that it's because of them, when actually they're just hunting over their head. There's a lot of folklore surrounding bats and hair, which is really strange. It's quite funny as well. So I'll list a few, although there are many beliefs. One such myth, I hope it's a myth anyway, says that if a bat even touches your hair, then you may have problems in love. You may get ill, you may become bald, your hair may go grey. If a bat gets entangled in your hair, it will never get out, so you'll have to cut it all off. Or, if you do want to keep your hair, you're going to have to wait till a thunderstorm for the bat to be scared away. So does that mean that until you have a thunderstorm, you just have to feed the bat in your hair?
I don't think I've seen many accounts of people walking around with bats in their hair waiting on the next thunderstorm.
Well, that's people that wear hats, isn't it?
There you go. You heard it here first.
Another really strange belief is that a bat may pluck your hair and fly off with it and put it in a tree, and then the tree will die, and then you'll die.
So, don't be losing your hair strands to bats. And if they put it in a tree, make sure you get it back.
If you want to look after nature, then if you find someone's hair on a tree, take it off just in case a bat put it there, because you don't want the tree to die. So this is my favourite one, just to finish off on this weird myth. If a bat flies over the head of a child, which is very common. If a child walks outside at night, there will most likely at some point be a bat flying over their head. The parents must, I repeat, must mix oils and coffee with some of the child's hair and clothes, or else the child will cease to grow.
Wow. Okay, so that must mean that must mean there's either no bats in the UK,
or every child is just shorter than they should be. So other than light, other explanations for bats swooping over you are, as I said, hunting. If you've got a head torch on, then it'll seem they're coming near your head because the light attracts the insect. And also, if you're walking through long grass, then your walking might just flush up the insects into the air, and so the bats may then come
again. I
again.
never thought of that. That's a really good point. So if you want to attract bats, try flushing some moths out along grass.
But make sure if you've got your children with you, you don't let the bats fly over their head, or else you're going to have to mix some coffee and oils. It doesn't even say the type of oils when I had a look online.
What,
just every oil that exists.
Coffee?
No, yeah, coffee, but the oils. Just every single oil exists. Mix it with coffee and all of your child's clothes and all of your child's hair.
Okay, to be honest, if you have to put it near your child, I think your child won't grow just for that fact alone. Covering oil's not going to help.
Probably just run away if you do that. Like, what are you doing? Right, what's your next one?
I'm going to do two. So the first one, and this is in relation to people saying to me, I saw just one mouse and I've not seen him again since, now he's gone. I can guarantee you, if you've not seen the mouse again since, he's probably still there. The reasons being, if he can get in once, he can get in again. There's never usually just one mouse either, and they're never usually gone. Just because you don't see it all the time doesn't mean it's not there. And this is the thing, when someone first sees a mouse, or more than one, then that's the first time they've seen it, but it's probably not the first time a mouse has been in your home. And if you've not seen it again since, I guarantee that mouse will still be there. He's just doing a very good job of hiding from you, because the amount of people that call me back and I say there'll still be a problem, and they go, no, it's gone. 2 weeks later, help, we're overrun by mice. I did kind of tell you. So if you see a mouse in your house and you don't see him again for a while, he's not gone, he's still there. Call me. Second one, back onto the foxes. Foxes kill cats. On very, very rare occurrences, a fox may go for a cat. And, you know, it's not out of the realms of possibility that it could kill a cat. But I've never come across a proven case where a fox has killed a cat.
I have seen videos of cats chasing foxes. And I've seen videos of cats and foxes playing a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, yeah, I've seen all those too. And I'm going to feed into that in a moment. You know, foxes are not cat killers. They do not predate on cats. Cats don't form any part of their diet. They don't lurk around gardens waiting to catch and kill your cat. It doesn't happen. It's not true.
In fact, the diet of most foxes is mainly worms, isn't it? About 50% of a fox's diet sometimes is worms.
Yes, in certain areas where it allows them to forage for worms, that's a huge part of the diet, as are rats, as are mice. I mean, foxes will have scuffles with cats. It's common. They're sharing the same territory. And the vast majority of times, like you said, the cat will dominate the fox and chase them off. And there's occasions where they'll play together, so it's not always bad interactions. A lot of people worry and they go, oh, there's a fox in my garden, you know, and I think it's making a den and it's chasing my cat and my cat's chasing him and I'm worried for my cat. The thing is, that's the first time you've seen it. But that fox could have been there for months and you've not even known, and your cat would have been interacting with that fox regularly. In fact, if there's a fox in your area, he will know all the cats in his territory, because like cats, he will set mark areas, he'll be picking up on their scents, he'll know that there is cats in certain parts of his territory. And you know, some of the cats may chase him off, so the fox may avoid those areas. Those who suddenly see foxes and cubs in the garden may see a bit more tension between the fox and the cats, because naturally the fox is going to chase a cat away. Even if it's the cat's own garden, they want to chase a cat away because they're worried for their cubs. So again, it's not really aggression, it's really more of protection, because they don't want their cubs to be harmed. But a lot of the times, cats and foxes coexist really, really well, unless the cat's been a bully. There is, however, lots of stories when people go, foxes do kill cats. I've seen a fox walking with a cat in its mouth. I've heard that one lots of times. One, there's never ever the witness evidence of someone actually physically seeing a fox kill a cat. But foxes will take roadkill cats. So if a cat's killed on the road, a fox is an opportunist. He's not going to turn down a big hefty meal like a cat for him or her. They'll take that cat and they'll drag her back, and that's when people see it and they then think, oh no, it's the cat killer fox again. They don't predate on cats. It's not true. It's not out of the realms of possibility, but I just don't think foxes are spending a lot of their times hunting cats.
It would be a big risk to them to hunt cats as well, wouldn't it? Because the likelihood of injury is so high.
Well, very big risk. The only times foxes are really drawn to our gardens is if someone's feeding them to make den to raise their cubs, or if they've got cubs. With the latter two, the fox is not going to take unnecessary risk to its health and its life because it wants to raise its family in safety. So it will avoid confrontations if it can. Yes, they will chase cats away. It doesn't mean it's attacking your cat. There's a very big difference. And I always find, like the dog story before, once you start asking certain questions about actually what happened, it turns out it's nothing more than just a fox chasing a cat rather than a fox killing or attacking a cat. Over to you.
My next one is sharks kill lots of people. Sharks are another greatly vilified animal, and they do kill people and they do injure people. But people seem to dislike them and fear them a lot more than I think is deserved, or at least necessary. There are over 400 species of shark, and only 3 have been confirmed to have killed 10 or more people, although it is likely that several more species have done so, since not every death is necessarily recorded or every species is correctly identified. But in the last 60 years, sharks have killed about 450 people, which is only about 7 or 8 people a year. And that's not a lot when you think about the fact there's sharks all over the world and people using oceans that sharks use every single day. The total number of attacks averaged about 46 a year, so the majority of people who were injured by sharks were not killed by them.
Wow, so more people probably die from dog attacks than they do shark attacks?
Oh, many more. It's not to say that people being killed by sharks isn't a tragedy, but it's just not as big a problem as I think people think it is. And a lot of scuba divers and surfers who use the oceans which sharks use understand the risks and respect that the sharks are the ones who live there. As people say, shark-infested waters.
But it's their home, it's their waters, it's
exactly.
where they live.
A lot of people who use the areas sharks use respect that. They know that it's not shark-infested waters. If anything, it's human-infested. And it's not like the sharks are coming onto the land to kill us. In fact, a lot of the time when sharks kill or injure people, it's not because they're trying to kill them. It's actually what can be called exploratory bites. And that's because sharks don't have hands and fingers like we do. So they explore the environment using their mouth, a lot like dogs do. So they bite something if they want to discover more about it. That's why a lot of bites to humans are just one-off, and it may kill them due to infection or the severity of the injury. It may just injure them, but it's often just one bite and then the shark leaves them alone. Now, Australia, especially Western Australia, is the most dangerous place in the world for shark attacks, and even there, the chance of being killed by a shark is just 1 in 16,000. And that's not just for your general person, that's for a diver.
Wow, that's mind-blowing when you think of it. Well, people are made to believe sharks are really dangerous creatures. When you start looking at all these different numbers, they don't actually seem that dangerous.
It's not to say that people aren't killed by sharks and that it can't be dangerous to be around a shark. It's just to say that they're not evil like people think they are, and they're not responsible for killing many, many people, because I think they're just viewed as so horrible by so many people, and yet they're not even that big a problem in the grand scheme of things.
But in movies like Jaws and shark attacks and things like that do not help with their reputation.
No, definitely.
They're incredible creatures. I mean, the amount of different species. And they're heavily persecuted, not just because they're seen as these big threats, but for their fins. So if you don't know what I mean, Google shark fin soups and the impact that has on shark numbers worldwide. I think like millions die a week.
I believe sharks kill about 7 or 8 people a year. Apparently, we kill around 10,000 an hour.
Wow.
An hour. 10,000. That's more sharks being killed by humans than humans have been killed by sharks in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
So maybe we should put ourselves on that list of dangerous creatures.
Humans are the most dangerous species on the planet.
Agreed.
I've only got one more to do. Well, 2 after this, but they kind of go together. So how many have you got left to do?
I've got two.
Do you want to do...
really quick?
You do your two, then I'll do my two.
Okay. So my next one is you're never more than 6 feet away from a rat. It's a common saying used by pest controllers to make people scared that they're going to be overrun by rats. The truth is, it's not really the case. If you're living at the top of a tower block, you're not really going to have loads of rats there. If you live in the middle of a town and there's nice gardens, no rubbish or no major food sources, there's probably no rats there. We live in a beautiful part, semi-rural, semi-urban, no rats around here. No rats probably within half a mile, if not more, than where we are.
If you're living in a flat and you've got a rat within 6 foot of you, even if it's underneath the floorboards, you're going to know it's there. They're noisy animals.
If he's not 6 foot under the floorboards, well, imagine 6 foot around you right now in a bubble. There's no rat there. You can extend that bubble a long way and there'll still be no rats there. Yes, rats do live outside and they can be quite secretive and shy creatures. It doesn't mean they can be living 6 feet from you. If anything, they want to be living as far from you as possible unless you're attracting them with food. So, never more than 6 feet away from a rat is not true. And my last one, and this one again, this one really baffles me that people could even put this term on these, that snap traps, kill traps, glue traps are humane ways of killing wildlife. They're not. They're indiscriminate. They kill non-target species. They kill pets. They kill even red squirrels. There's nothing humane about having a bit of metal squishing or trying to snap your neck or your back. And lots of times, animals caught in these traps are often alive and suffering for a long time.
It could catch their leg or their tail as well. It's not necessarily going to be the part of them which are designed to snap.
There is simply no humane way to kill a creature. It doesn't exist. Killing is not humane. So anything like that, if someone ever tell you, oh yeah, we'll humanely get rid of these rats by killing them, it doesn't exist. There is no such way you can humanely kill something.
And poisoning isn't a painless death. It's not like falling asleep. And glue traps are not nice either. I've seen someone say just catch it on a glue trap, then put oil on it and release it outside. But it's not as simple as that, and animals are often chewing their legs off and ripping their skin off before that happens anyway. When you put oil on an animal that's been in a glue trap, they don't just have a bit of oily fur and then toddle away. It's a lot harder to get them off than that, and the oil can really badly affect their fur or even their feathers.
And talking about glue traps, I've seen kittens stuck on them, I've seen robins, hedgehogs, all non-target species getting caught on glue traps, and a lot of them end up having to be put to sleep because their injuries were so horrific. So there is no such thing as a humane trap that kills. Killing something can never be humane. So no, they are not humane. Flo, what are your last two?
So my second last one is baby birds or deer on their own always need help. Often wildlife rescue centres get phoned about gulls on their own, fledgling birds on their own, and deer on their own. So to start off with the gulls, gull chicks often seem like they're on their own and their parents are not looking after them, particularly if they've fallen from a roof and are now on a pavement or lower down a building somewhere. It's really common for adult gulls to feed their young and then just fly off again. And it's common with a lot of animals just to leave their young alone, and it reduces the chance of the animal being predated. People will often watch gull chicks thinking they're on their own, and then go away for a few minutes, and in that time the parents can feed them and leave again. As gull chicks are pretty self-sufficient, being semi-precocial birds, which don't need fed every few minutes, like very small newborn hatchlings of other species. Flightless fledglings hopping around gardens, such as robins or starlings or blackbirds or many other birds like that, are commonly seen and do not need help unless they're injured or are clearly weak. Watch out for cats and other predators, but if they seem healthy and are hopping about the garden, being looked after by their parents still, then they do not need help, and within a few days they should have found their wings and be flying. These ones need left alone, and unless you think there's a reason specifically why they need to come in, just leave them be, and if you can, keep any cats or dogs indoors or don't use that part of the garden. Now with deer also leave their young alone for hours, even up to 12 hours when they're young, and this is again so that they're less likely to be predated. When young deer are born, they can't run with the same speed as adult deer, and so leaving them alone away from the adult deer mean that if there's a predator, they're not going to outchase the young, catch them and kill them. Young deer who are alone for hours may need help if they've definitely been alone a long time, are injured, in a dangerous location, are weak or in distress, but a lot of the time their parents will just be feeding somewhere nearby. If in doubt, just phone your wildlife rescue centre before approaching, unless, like I said, there's imminent danger, like they're lying on a road or they're trapped somewhere. It's quite common for people to pick up young deer thinking they're helping, and then at that point they can't be returned to their parents because they've been taken away for many hours or been put in an unsafe situation. And this leads me on to my next one, which is about deer. And this common misconception is that baby deer are called fawns and male deer are called stags. I'm just going to quickly list the species of deer in the UK and what they're actually called. And it's just complicated and confusing that everyone seems to be a bit different, but unfortunately that's just the way it is. So if you want to learn the names for the specific species, then here you go. So male red deer, first of all, are stags. Female red deer are hinds, and young are called calves. With sika deer, the males are stags, females they are hinds, and offspring they are calves. So red deer and sika deer are the same in that sense. Now roe deer, the males are called bucks, females are does, and the young are kids. Muntjac deer, the male again is a buck, female a doe, and the offspring is a fawn or a kid, can be either. Fallow deer, males are bucks, females are does, offsprings are fawns. And Chinese water deer, the males are bucks, females are does, and the offspring are fawns. So there's only 3 of the 6 species of deer in the UK whose young are called fawns, only 4 of the 6 whose females are called does, and only 2 of the 6 whose males are called stags. Hope you enjoyed this podcast of common misconceptions. If you can think of any for yourself, then let us know and maybe we can cover it in a future podcast. And if there are any common misconceptions we mentioned which you had yourself believed, then let us know as well, because it'd be interesting to know that we've helped myth bust something for you.